Spencer, come and take a look at a chart here that I'm showing inside my terminal, all about the fundamentals, trying to hold in support at the 200-day moving average, but the RSI doesn't look oversold just yet, as you can see on the screen. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, overall, I think China has definitely been driving some of the price action over the past couple months. But, I think it's challenging to read between the lines on what China's doing. I mean, we've seen some favorable moves in terms of Xi Jinping's move to blockchain the whole country and put it as a strategic priority. And then we've also seen some moves like Bitcoin miners were once put on a list of industries to be eliminated from the country. It's been removed from that list, so a slightly friendlier stance in that respect. And so while we've seen some crackdown on some of these smaller and shadier crypto exchanges, some of the larger ones seem to be getting a little bit more credibility within the country.
Spencer, how much does the fate of blockchain, of Bitcoin, of these digital assets really depend on a clear trajectory from China? Because as we know, with a lot of their policies, not just digital asset related, it can be, one step forwards, a couple of steps back, sideways. Maybe there's not necessarily a great deal of consistency. How hard is that for people that are betting on the future of digital assets?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I don't think that Bitcoin's future is in any way dependent on what China does. So I think it's helpful to kind of zoom out, get away from some of the near-term headlines, because I think in general, any kind of short-term trading strategy around Bitcoin is the wrong one. I think the question that people need to be asking is Bitcoin going to be more successful over the next 5 years than it is today? And I think if we look at all of the underlying trends here, they're all very constructive. I mean, Bitcoin's gone from being a joke just a few years ago to processing $1 to $3 billion worth of transactions daily. I mean, if we look back over the past 2 years, Bitcoin has processed more than $1.6 trillion of transactions. So whether it's that or some of the startups that we're seeing that are growing at incredible clips, particularly a lot of the on-ramps, so companies like Coinbase and Kraken, we're seeing a lot of positive growth across the industry as a whole.
But what about some of the regulatory overhang and the struggles that Facebook's Libra has had to face? Does that help or hurt?
Sure. So, I mean, look, the regulatory overhang is certainly real. There's always concerns that our regulators going to make it more difficult to acquire Bitcoin. But overall, Bitcoin doesn't need necessarily regulatory approval the same way a Libra does. The whole point is that it was launched in this nondescript kind of way and is now spread around the world, and there's 40,000 nodes around the world supporting Bitcoin. So its success doesn't really hinge on any kind of regulatory clarity, but certainly as that overhang kind of clears, it's definitely constructive for Bitcoin.
If you say that trading isn't the way to view or to play Bitcoin, and that you obviously need to take a longer term, step back to look at the possibilities that are held within the technology, how do you actually, I guess, capitalize on that opportunity if you're not trading it day to day?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing is position sizing. So, to take a step back here, I think it's a bolder bet or a riskier bet to say that Bitcoin will be less successful over the next 5 years than the past 5 years. I mean, all the trends suggest otherwise, whether it's that the value of transactions processed that I just discussed, or whether it's actually looking at what do people think of Bitcoin. So, we run a survey. We ran one in fall 2017 in the middle of a raging bull market. We ran another one in spring 2019. So this is actually done by Harris Poll. It surveys more than 2,000 American adults, and we use it to gauge the general population's awareness, perception, familiarity, conviction, and propensity to purchase. And what we saw is over that 18-month period from fall 2017 to spring 2019, despite a significant market decline, the metrics were up across the board. So people are learning more about Bitcoin, they have more conviction in its future, and I would guess that there are going to be more purchasers going forward.
Right, so more people are learning about it. The retail audience is more engaged, they're understanding more. Can you assume, although I know we hate to use that word, that Bitcoin continues to move higher from here?
I certainly think so over any reasonable time horizon. So we don't make any kind of investments or bets on a weekly or a monthly basis, but certainly over the next 3 years, we're very constructive on the price of Bitcoin. One thing that's coming up in a few months is the halving, so to speak. So this is Bitcoin's third halving. This is the rate of new issuance when it falls in half every 4 years. And so in May 2020 of next year, we have the next halving. So the rate of new issuance falls, it's a little bit less selling pressure, and I think that's overall constructive on price.